everybody, and welcome into the show once again. I'm Alec Caperna. That's Mike Wolfgang. Today, the NFL comes back, and I'm excited, man. It's been a long time coming. We obviously got college football. That went great in week one. We talked about that yesterday. Tomorrow, we're going to bring in it local once again to talk about high school football. And then next week, this podcast, we're switching things up a little bit. We're going to start talking more local sports, volleyball, soccer, a lot more football. So come on back next week, especially. We're going to be testing out some new things, a new format coming to the show. As Mike, this is the 52nd week of the Casual Sports Podcast on YSN. This is the end of our first year here. It was the 13th of September last year that started us out here at YSN for the Casual Sports Podcast, and we're finishing off a whole year of podcast. It's been a long one, and what more fitting that it goes all the way back around to the start of the football season yet again.
Yeah, I'm excited to start talking a little bit more high school because, and even doing some work too, because I don't keep up with as much as I used to, as much as I did when I was in high school. So I'm excited to start talking more about that, but we'll still squeeze our stuff in there. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're going to try and break up the show half and half so that for you viewers that do love when we talk about the national stuff, we'll save the back half of the program to talk about that kind of stuff. But front half of the shows going into next week will primarily focus on the high school sports in the region. So some big change-ups coming. Let us know what you guys think of them here on Twitter, on our Instagram at Casual Sports Report. Let us know what you want to see here on the show. This is, after all, for the people. So, Mike, with that being said, we do kind of have some breaking news. It's not sports news, but the NFL, they do play in London, so I feel it's appropriate to bring this up. But the Queen of England has passed away at 96 years old. She that was announced about half an hour ago before the show. So I wanted to mention it, as I believe it'll be the first time that the NFL will play in England while that queen is not in power. Well, Queen Elizabeth is not in power. So figured it was safe to mention here in that regard.
96 years old too. God bless her. Hope we all live that long.
Right. I mean, hey, that's a long life. 70 years in power. That's insane. And to put that into perspective, last time she wasn't in power was 1952. The NFL officially was only 32 years old. And most of the teams we know now don't exist at that point. So it's been a long time since the NFL, has been around without that monarch in power. Just thought I'd mention it. But without any further ado, let's get into the games. Tonight, Mike, the Buffalo Bills, the LA Rams, something a lot of people are calling the potential Super Bowl preview here tonight to open up the season on Thursday Night Football.
Well, on that note, obviously we talked about the Rams. We were talking some preseason stuff over the end of the summer. It's going to be hard for the Rams to get back because they have what everybody wants, so everybody's going to be coming after them. And we see, unless you're Tom Brady and the Patriots and Buccaneers, it's hard to get back there consistently. So I'm interested in that part. There's some new faces on the Rams team as well. And as the Bills, are they going to live up to the hype? Because almost every prediction I've seen this year is for the Super Bowl is, at least from the AFC side, almost everybody has the Bills going from that side. So are they going to be able to live up to the hype, and are the Rams going to be able to defend the title?
Yeah, and that game's going to be on tonight at 8:20 on NBC, so make sure to tune in to that if your local games here on YSN have closed off. I know we got some high school volleyball tonight. I'm going to be out in Campbell, Liberty and Campbell going at one another, so that should be a fun matchup between those two. But, Mike, this Bills-Rams matchup, I think this is huge. Obviously, I think the biggest storyline is Von Miller going from one to the other. And goes from Super Bowl here. Super Bowls seem to follow Von Miller as well. I mean, he's got some with the Broncos, got some now with the Rams, got a chance here with this Bills team. And I think that's a piece of why people continue to look at this Bills team and go, well, hold on. They might have something. Success follows Von Miller. The only downside is success doesn't tend to follow Buffalo. They're one of those programs that historically have always been really good, but they never get over that final hump. They can never win that Super Bowl. It's something that's haunted them over the last, 25 years? So ever since, it was the Four Falls of Buffalo? There's a whole documentary on it.
Good documentary too. I liked it.
Yeah, I know both you and Matt both like it. I've never seen it, so
you'll have to watch it. Well, I also like I said talked about my Cowboys in it too. So
okay, well,
there you twice.
Remember Odell Beckham no longer with the Rams, still a free agent actually, and he's going to be out until after Thanksgiving. So likelihood is we don't see OBJ for the majority of the season anywhere. Robert Woods also gone from this Rams roster. They do lose so much, and I think that's part of kind of what you have to look at. They still have their best guys, though. Matt Stafford, we saw it last season. He looked really good with this team. And the connections that they all seemed to put together in these games, I think was promising, obviously enough to win a Super Bowl. I think a big part of that was their defense, and their defense pretty much returns a majority of the same guys from last year, at least the big players, Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald, no Von Miller. But I think this defense, just they have enough around it. They're full of great players there that even if the offense does experience just that early season struggle, like we do see out of most offenses aren't down pat week one. It takes a minute. Week one, you try and look for tighter scoring, low scoring ball games. I think this game probably blows that out of the water. We have two really good offenses, two really good defenses that could go every way. This game has a ton of potential to go in every direction, but Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson Jr., a great running back group. The problem, I think, for the Rams who are going to the season, we know they have a good starting three at the wide receiver spot: Kupp, Robinson, and Jefferson. Van Jefferson is out for tonight, and that means you have to start looking into the reserves for this group. Well, at that spot, they only have 4 backup wide receivers after the preseason cuts. They are thin in this department, and you look around and you don't really know any of these other guys. They have Lance McCutcheon, Ben Skowronek, Tutu Atwell, and Brandon Powell. No big names. Tyler Higbee, their tight end one.
I think that's Ben Skowronek from Notre Dame, I think.
Okay.
If that's who I'm thinking of.
Probably. Tight end wise, I mean, Bryson Hopkins is their only other backup. They don't have a backup center, which is fine, but they are dealing with injuries. Logan Bruss, their backup right guard, is injured in this game. They're not coming in with Bobby Brown III, who's suspended. Daniel Hardy on the injured reserve. There's quite a few holes and deficiencies, I think, with this Rams squad. And if injuries were to build up here in week one, or really at any point in the season, I think it's really going to hurt this group. And I think tonight that they just need to find that rhythm and avoid the letdown. You won the Super Bowl. Now you have to come back out in your home. Thursday night, you're the only game on television outside of YSN. We got lots of games that you can watch instead of that. But we see a lot of times people are hoisting the banners, the whole celebration, and then they get shell-shocked in game one. And if any team's going to do it, it's going to be Buffalo.
And we've seen that too. I know the last couple of years, it seems like the team that won the Super Bowl opens up the next year. Often, most times they do win, but at least it's entertaining games. Last year, the Cowboys pushed Tampa Bay to the end of the game. I think the year before that, I think maybe Houston played Kansas City when they won it. They pushed them to the end. I remember a couple years ago when the Eagles won it. They were challenging week one. So when you're the favorite coming out, after you win the Super Bowl, yeah, like you said, I think the thing with the Rams last year was with the depth wise, that's why they added guys like Odell last year and Von Miller and just stripped their draft picks because they're like, hey, we're just going to go for it. Now these guys leave and depth is going to be an issue. So I think when you're playing with some older guys, especially quarterback and some guys at receiver too, that's also a concern. But I don't think that's the case on Buffalo side. I think we're going to switch it over here to them. They're pretty loaded, I think.
They are, and even if something was to happen to Josh Allen at some point in the season, they have Case Keenum as their backup quarterback, who obviously we've seen in Minnesota help a team out there and give them a nice run. I think he probably should have gotten a shot in Cleveland with Baker in this injury. Never occurred. Still a little disappointed by that because Case Keenum was Stefanski's guy. We never got to see that, but he's a very talented game manager, and I think that's the big part of what they bring coming into this game. If Josh Allen goes down, Keenum is good enough to keep this team where they are while we wait for an Allen return. We don't have to worry about that yet, but I think it's a factor you got to keep in mind. Who is the backup for all these teams? Josh Allen, though, I mean, already being looked at, potential MVP. of the season, best quarterback. People love this guy, and for good reason. He's one of the most talented arm quarterbacks we have in the league. Your modern-day version of Aaron Rodgers, which is one of the concerning comparisons I have. Because you look at Josh Allen and you look at Aaron Rodgers, and you see the comparability between the two, and you see Josh Allen not winning the big games, getting to the AFC Championship, slipping up. When you're being compared to Aaron Rodgers and you're already blowing big games and you can't close them out, doesn't always look the best for you. And I have a feeling Buffalo is going to continue this track of being right there. Every year they're going to be right there. And I think they always will have a roster that can get them over that hump. I just don't know if they have the mindset to ever get over that hump once again and make it back to the Super Bowl. They bring in a high-caliber defense. I mean, we got Tremaine Edmonds, Von Miller, Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, a huge defensive unit that is going to really help out an offense that we obviously saw last year was the best offense combined with the best defense. I expect nothing less of this Bills team this year. They have a great unit, and they should really have enough to take on the Rams here tonight. And at the least, keep it competitive. At the most, they can win this thing by 20.
Well, in Josh Allen's defense, though, he did everything last year in that last game against the Chiefs. 13 seconds, somebody comes back and sends the game to overtime. That's not on him, and that's really that's the Chiefs just being great. But I think the reason why people are looking at them this year as being a contender is because the last 2 years losing to the Chiefs, as close as they did, as heartbreaking as they did, they go out and have a good offseason, a good draft to get Von Miller and get some other pieces too. And like you said, combined with the offensive part of it, is the offense, the great offense they had last year, they didn't lose really anything. And their defense has been strong, especially in the secondary. So I think that's the reason why people look at this team as a contender, and they rightfully they should be, at least in the AFC, because it is loaded in the AFC. I know it's going to be hard, but this is possible a Super Bowl matchup. But as far as tonight, I think I agree. I'm going to go and get my pick away. I'm going to pick the Bills because I know it's hard going on the road when you're opening up a season against a team that just won the Super Bowl, who's going to raise a banner. Like you said, it's a big celebration. But we've seen teams come close, and I think Buffalo right now has what it takes to get it done, especially with the Rams team that has depth. I don't want to say depth problems, but it's not as deep as they were last year in the last couple of years.
They did so well, even with tons of injuries at the wide receiver unit. If that was to happen again, Cooper Kupp, he is somewhat injury prone at times. Not major injuries, but I feel like every now and then, he's going to be out for a week or two. I don't think they can afford to have him do that this year. So I think that is something that you have to be a little concerned with going into the game. But officially, I mean, Van Jefferson's the only one out with an injury tonight, and I think that is going to impact them a little bit. I think they're going to suffer from the Super Bowl hangover as well. Buffalo's favored by 2.5. I'm going to give it to them. I got the Bills taking this game to open up the season 8-20 tonight.
And I know losing Robert Woods, and even last year, like you said, injury problems in their receiving core with, it's not anybody's fault that OBJ has a ACL injury in the Super Bowl. It's just because he was having a great game before that. But they have had injury issues in the receiving core. And I actually do like them losing, even though they lost Robert Woods, big loss. OBJ is not coming back. But Cooper Kupp pairing with Allen Robinson, I do like that pairing a lot because he was a good guy.
Great route running.
Yeah, he was great in Chicago, just obviously to get the attention there because they're not really a good team. But pairing him with Cooper Kupp, I think that's going to be pretty good for Matt Stafford, who got comfortable with Cooper Kupp last year and is in a good situation that he wasn't in, with Detroit.
We're going to be talking about that Bears team real soon. I'm excited to see what they potentially have. They're not going to win, but I'm excited to see what they're going to have.
I am too, actually.
But first games of the official season on this Sunday, Saints and the Falcons start things off at 1 p.m. along with a few others. Both these teams are coming in here, Mike, with a boatload of injuries. Falcons not with Parker Hesse, their number 2 tight end, not with Drake London, their high pick wide receiver, and not with Darren Hall, their corner. Saints, they're going to be without center Eric McCoy, running back Dwayne Washington, offensive tackle Landon Young, wide receiver Traquan Smith, and offensive tackle Tanner Owen. So both these teams coming in with some real deficiencies, but this Saints team, Mike, it seems when you talk to anybody going into the season, it's either bright, sunny sunshine on one side. This team can really make an impact, potentially takes the NFC and makes a huge season, or Jameis Winston's a terrible quarterback and they're going to have 4 wins. Yeah, it's night and day when you talk to any two people. I haven't heard somebody go, I think they'll be an all right team, maybe 9-8, make the playoff, maybe. I have not heard that. It's either this team is going all the way or this team is doing nothing. And I think that's a real disparity with this squad. They have a ton of injuries as well when you really look onto their depth chart and you see all the questionables, a couple suspensions, guys all over the IR. I think it's not the best place to start. We don't know if we'll see Michael Thomas in this game tonight, but Jarvis Landry, and of course, we get to see Chris Olave, first time in the NFL, maybe one of the highest recruited wide receivers or highest scouted receivers in college football in recent years because of the fact that he could have gone to the NFL a year ago, stayed with Ohio State to try and run it back and win that title, and smashed a few records in the process. All eyes were on him all last season, and he gets an extra year of development with Brian Hartline, which obviously I don't think you can short how important that is to get an extra year with the guy that's played in the NFL and is great as Brian Hartline is. So I'm excited to see what Olave does with this Saints crew, who does have a handful of Buckeyes. Obviously pairing up with Michael Thomas is a big one defensively. Bradley Roby on that defense. Can't remember. Is Cameron Jordan Ohio State? No, he's not. He's Cal. I don't know why I always think he is, but Cam Marshawn Lattimore is. What's that?
Cam Hayward is.
That's I don't know why I always get the two confused.
Same name. And Pete Warner, too.
Safer. Yeah, Pete Warner, who's questionable in this game. So a lot of scarlet and gray with the black and gold. So it seems to be a common trend. Steelers and the Saints both love those Buckeyes.
Throw my Cowboys in there, too. They got Malik Hooker and Zeke and a couple other guys, I think. Noah Brown.
They pull them in there. But yeah. I think injuries are going to hurt them tonight. But I really want to see what Jameis Winston does because I think he's a talented quarterback, and I don't think people give him credit, respectively so. I mean, the dude had, 30 interceptions in a season? Yeah, obviously he's going to get some hate. But I think when we've seen Jameis at his best here in the NFL, he's one of our, I would say, a top 15 quarterback, which is what the Saints are going to need.
And I think that actually could be, I don't know how far, but I think that's actually good enough to at least put them in the conversation because the receiving core we just talked about. I think pairing Olave and although they didn't play together, in college with Michael Thomas, I think that's a pretty good pairing because they come from the same.
So similar.
They're similar too, and I know it's a different system with the Saints compared to Ohio State. It's a different league too, or level, but that's good chemistry to have when both guys are familiar with each other and where they came from.
And I think for Mike here to add to your point there with the Saints, they developed Michael Thomas from that Ohio State system into theirs. They already have the blueprint on how to turn a top wide receiver from that system at Ohio State into a top wide receiver in the NFL in their own system, which is obviously, I think, is a big reason why they took Olave where they did that high up and didn't even hesitate on it. It was a very quick pick from the Saints. They know how to work with that.
And I think they have the quarterback that they can do that with because Jameis can throw it far. Like you said, it's just a matter of receivers getting open, making plays for him, and him making the right reads. But we know the talent's there with Jameis. And I think that's why, and people forget last year he gets injured early on. They couldn't recover from that because they just didn't really have a backup quarterback situation. Other injuries too in the passing game with Michael Thomas out. They just weren't equipped to win last year. I think they're better equipped to have more success this year, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And you always know their defense is going to be solid too. So this Saints team, like you said, has a potential to do something. Like I said, it's either high or low. There's no in between. I think it's more likely that's going to be somewhere mid towards the high with this team this year. At least on paper, it has the ability. As far as
Falcons, I think they do.
And
we don't even talk about the defense on this side, but the Saints had a really good defense last year. We're talking about the offense had some serious holes at the quarterback spot after injuries. Well, they only have 2 on the roster this year, so they better not have issues again. But the defense kept them in a lot of games last year despite those offensive deficiencies.
And there was times they were starting Taysom Hill quarterback, which we know is not a natural quarterback. And I think they were starting Ian Book towards the end of the year too. So they didn't have answers last year. And I think hopefully Jameis is healthy this year because I do want to see him
Andy
healthy.
Dalton though, if they need it.
Andy Dalton too. I forgot it's a good signing too. It's it's a quality backup, just kind of like Case Keenum type of level. And I think they have potential at least on paper to do something this year.
I think you look over on the other side, though. Falcons, I think this is going to be a rocky start for them. Marcus Mariota, your quarterback. From what we saw in preseason and what we've heard out of training camps, he has returned to form. So hopefully that's the case because, I think a lot of people remember when he was balling out with that Tennessee program and him and Derrick Henry were about to take the league by storm, and then he blows out his knees. And everything fell apart from there. Tannehill takes over. Tannehill takes him to the AFC Championship, and it was a big hurrah. Marcus Mariota basically lost the job because of it. Now he's got his second shot. Marcus Mariota takes over the Falcons program. They have two backups in Desmond Ridder and Felipe Franks. I think we see Desmond Ridder probably at some point this season if things aren't going well. But if they win, especially this week one game, and they continue to win, I think this is going to be Marcus Mariota's game to play. I think they're going to let him roll this as far as he can. And if he ends up bleeding of somewhere, I think that they will re-sign him on some big deals. I think right now, Atlanta, they're just looking for something to hold on to at the moment while they are attempting to rebuild. He's only 28 years old. So he's a guy with plenty of experience, and I think that's something you want as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Played his last 2 years in Las Vegas, barely saw any playing time. We haven't seen him throw for 1,000 yards since that 2019 season. So it's going to be a big question of what does he return to? Is he still the mobile quarterback that, put up 100 over 200 yards in the majority of the seasons he played, and actually went over 300 three separate occasions from 2016 to 2018. Does he return with that? I don't know what Marcus Mariota is going to be for this Atlanta Falcons group.
And talk about the schedule coming up too. I know we probably touched on this at some point throughout the summer, but open up against the Saints, then at the Rams. That's two tough ones right away for a team that's not projected really to do much. At the Seahawks, could get a break there. It could be somewhat of an even match game. Going to the Browns, we don't know what they are yet, but then at the Bucs versus the 49ers, at the Bengals and Panthers. So I ran through the first 2 months just to kind of see where things are at. So that's midway through the season. That's tough for a young team to really start out with. So, at least bringing in Marcus Mariota, who we don't know what you're going to get game to game or even season to season, having not started in Las Vegas, coming over to a situation like this where he's going to be the guy that people look at. I don't think it's a bad guy to have behind, in front of Desmond Ridder and some other young guys too, but it's just not going to result in wins. But as long as the other guys behind him can get better, teaches them some things, that's going to be a win for the Falcons.
It is. This is a gap year for them.
Yeah.
Drake London obviously questionable. Calvin really suspended for the season because he was gambling on games last year while he was out injured, specifically Falcons game, which led to the full year suspension, which was in violation of the NFLPA's policy on gambling. I'm not allowed to do that. And they don't really have any wide receivers in this game, which isn't going to make Mariota look good. In fact, in my opinion, I don't really think they have a running back. Cordero Patterson is a great athlete, but he made the move from wide receiver return man over to the running back spot, and I don't think it fits him as well. He's a talented guy at this position. He can play it, but last year came out with 618 yards, averaged 4 yards per carry, which is fine. But I think this is a guy that they can utilize a lot more as a scat back and bring him out of the pocket and flip him down into one of the flats or even try and push him downfield. I think he creates a fifth wide receiver out there for Mariota to go to, which is going to be important. Like I said, they don't really have a wide receiver group. I want to see Kyle Pitts, what he does this year. A lot of hype after that first season. People are still excited. He's losing some of it, but I think people are still plenty excited to see what that kid can do. They need a better offensive line. I think the Falcons are going to have a lot of deficiencies in this game. Mariota, I don't think, is going to look great in week one. It's going to be one of those offensive feeling out weeks, I think, for both of these teams as they learn what they have, what they can do. I think this is a close, low-scoring affair. Saints are favored by 5.5. I will give it to them, but I think it's close.
I can see the Saints winning by about 10-ish, which is, I still think, kind of qualifies for a close game. But like the running back department for the Falcons, they don't have much with Avery Williams and Damian Williams, who aren't, it's just not deep. It's really not a deep team. And I think, Kyle Pitts is going to have to be the guy too in the receiving core, like you were talking about, because no Calvin Ridley. And besides that, they really don't have too much. So a lot of these guys are going to have to step up for the Falcons this year, which young guys, we don't know if they're going to, how they're going to be able to do it, when they're going to be able to do it. But this game, I probably got Saints by around 10-ish.
Okay. Next game up here, San Fran, Chicago. Got to start moving a little bit quickly here, Mike. We're two games in, halfway through the show. But Chicago, they don't have a lot. But I think you just need to see the right things from Justin Fields in this week. He doesn't have to be perfect. He doesn't have to win. He just has to do the right things against a high caliber defense in San Fran. And pretty much the same thing for Trey Lance. I don't think he has to go out there and beat Tom Brady or beat Josh Allen. He just has to manage the game properly, show everyone that he has what it takes at the NFL level. We saw pieces. We've seen a couple of starts out of him while Jimmy's been injured, things of that nature. But now he's solidified. You are number one. Pressure's off. We have Jimmy G as a backup now, but don't worry about it. You are the guy. We picked you. Go earn your stripes. And I think that puts him in a great chance for success. But this is a feeling out process for both teams in this game. San Fran's favored by a touchdown. I give it to them. I probably have 49ers 24-13. I think in this game over the Bears. I think that's fair.
I don't think I have a good score prediction, but I think with this 49ers are going to win. I just don't have a score. That's what I'm going to pick. But I think people need to pump. Let's just take a break here with Trey Lance a little bit, because I get the hype. I get everything about it. But like you just said, it's, only time you really played the last year or so is for injury situations. You had to cover in. So let's see what this guy does as full-time starter. Let's give him a couple games here. Let's make him earn it. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. I think he has the talent to do enough to manage the game, like you said. That's probably going to be their play style, because they do like to run the ball a lot. That's why I think they're going to win this game too, because I don't think that Bears can handle that. But let's just see what he can do here first. Let's not put too much on him.
Line play is going to be big in this one, and that definitely favors the Niners. Next game up here, Steelers and the Bengals. Bengals been given a 6.5-point spread in their favor after their Super Bowl appearance last year. Deontay Johnson questionable going into this game for Pittsburgh, and it's the start of a new era, Mike, with this Steelers squad, with Mitch Trubisky being named the starter, Kenny Pickett second on the depth chart, and Mason Rudolph third on their depth chart going into the season. It's the start of a new era, and I'm really excited for it. I want to see what Mike Tomlin is without Big Ben, because we haven't seen it. What has he learned from his time working with the Hall of Fame quarterback over the last 15 years? And what can he turn this program into? We've seen him without Big Ben before during the injury years, and they managed. They went 8-8. That was his first non-winning season in his career. With that, I think he brings in a fine quarterback in Trubisky. I don't think the Bears' problem has ever been bad quarterback play. I think it's been nothing around the quarterback has really been the
coaching
issue.
Too.
And coaching is a huge problem with Chicago, and that's still affecting them. But I think you bring in the MVP here in Trubisky. I think he's going to fit great into this system, at least temporarily, until it becomes Pickett's time, which I think is inevitable. I think in this game, I think the Steelers really do have a good shot to take this home. Bengals have a lot there, and I think it's going to be a matter of, what is the defense at the level that it should be with this Pittsburgh team, because they should have the number one defense in the league, or right around that mark. They should be aiming top 5. But yet last year, they were one of the worst teams when it came to points allowed per game. And you can say, oh, well, they let in sacks and they didn't allow yards. I don't give a crap. If you allow points, that's the only thing that matters, because that impacts the outcome of the game. So they need to have a defense that prevents scores better. So they might have great defense players and a great defense, but they can't let the Bengals hang 40 on them in this game. You have to slow it down. Having an early season individual game like this between these two, I think, really sets up what should be an exciting AFC North. And I think right off, I think I am going to take the Steelers to kind of come out here and shock the Bengals in week 1. So I'm taking the Steelers.
And I think with the Trubisky situation, you're right, because although we haven't had Mike Tomlin there without Ben Roethlisberger since he's been in Pittsburgh, we've seen what he's done with backups. Like I said, they went 8-9, or it was when it was 16, 8-8, 7, 9-7, when they had a chance to get in the playoffs, even though some years they didn't, with Duck Hodges and some of these other guys. So they can get by with quarterbacks who don't have too much to offer. But I think
they got by with Big Ben that had nothing to offer last year.
Exactly. For the last 2 years, they squeezed in last year. They started out 11-0 the previous year with Ben, and I think that's with Trubisky this year. I think he's that version. I think he's kind of not as tough as Ben, but somewhat of a younger version as Ben, because he's more athletic. He can get which he was when he was younger. So I think that aspect of kind of getting younger Ben back a little bit. And as far as defense, we know what they're going to be up front. We know if it's close games, we know TJ Watt's going to make big plays. That's what his career is. That's why he's considered one of the best. But the secondary, like you said, tackling is going to be an issue. It was an issue last year. I hope that improves. But starting this one out, I think the Bengals might have a little bit of a hangover. I think they can still make a run this year, but I don't think they're going to go back. I'm going to pick them in this first game here. I think it's a little bit tough for the Steelers, and then they'll come home and get ready for the Patriots in week 2.
Eagles and Lions here in week 1 as well, another 1 p.m. game. I'm going to go quick on this. I really like the Eagles this season. I'm taking them in this game. They're only a 4-point favorite. I think Detroit's going to take a while to find their stride, find that rhythm. I think they have a good team. I'm hoping DeAndre Swift does well. He's on my fantasy team, so I'm hoping he goes off and has a big one. Yeah, I got a pretty good group going on this year. I'm excited for it, but I got the Eagles taking this game.
I think there could be some steps forward this year for the Lions, but I don't know if it's going to result in wins. But it pains me to pick the Eagles, but I'm going to. But in all fairness, so I'm not saying this because I'm a Cowboy fan. I don't like the Eagles, but I'm just saying this would be the case if it was any team in any other division. This is a team that the last couple years we've had concerns with Jalen Hurts, some other things as well. I know they got a lot of pieces this offseason. I got draft, but let's a lot of people are just picking them. I think just because I'll just flat out say because they don't want to pick the Cowboys in this division to repeat. And
Mike, I think part of that goes to statistically, no one's repeated in this division.
And that was my second point. Yeah, that was my second point because nobody's repeated in quite some time for majority of our life. But still, in all seriousness, let's see the Eagles kind of earn it this year. I'm not saying they can't win the division. It's wide open. I think the Cowboys have some holes this year for sure. But we've had our question. Are we throwing out the questions we had with Jalen Hurts out the window from last year? I mean, where'd all that go? So let's see what happens here.
Questions of Jalen Hurts last year. I really like this squad, and obviously they finished second in the NFC East at 9-8 overall. I really thought out of the young quarterback and the young guys they had, they put together a really phenomenal season for what they had, and they had an all right defense that needs some improvements, but I think they're going to be right in that conversation. I think this NFC East is going to be Cowboys Eagles yet again.
I think it should be, and it's going to be a good race because talent-wise, when the Cowboys are healthy, I think the receiving group's better. I think their quarterback's better when both guys are playing well. But I think the Eagles, the advantage they have is a better offensive line. They probably have a slightly better defense, so it's going to make up for a good race in this division. I'm actually so excited that there actually is 2 teams in this division that you can look forward to for the 2 games they play that are actually going to be.
Yeah, no one's going to the NFC. No one's making it to the playoffs out of this division with a losing record this year. Hopefully.
That's it.
We almost that was an odd season. Next up, New England and Miami. Mike, Miami's favored to win this game. They 3.5-point spread. The matchup predictor gives them 51.1% chance, and we know the Patriots love to struggle in Miami. These 2 teams met in January 9th of this year. Patriots lost 33-24. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I don't know because I don't know what we're going to get out of the Dolphins this year either. That's my problem with picking this game is that I don't know what we're going to get out of either of these teams because we talk about the offensive stuff with the Patriots throughout the summer, and obviously the big additions for the Dolphins. They got expectations now, and I think it's kind of in the position where we're talking about Jalen Hurts. I think he's slightly above the Tua situation because he's done some more things. He made the playoffs last year, and he's kind of earned it. But I think that's the question mark here. Is it going to work? At least in his first game, I don't know. I kind of like them at home in this game, but I don't know what I'm going to get out of either of these teams this year.
I think it's a legitimate question to ask for going through this. So last 3 matchups, let's see. The home team, part of Miami, won their 2020 matchup, their final one. Miami's lost the last 3 actually. Miami's won the last 3 matchups. They won 2022, 2021, one of their 2020 matchups. They split the season in 2019, split it in 2018, split it in 2017. But New England has not won in Miami since that 2019 season. They won 43-0. But
I think that
they don't fare well.
I think that was Antonio Brown's first game down in Miami.
I think it was, yeah. But then you go back before that. 2017 was their last win prior to that. And then prior to that, it was 2012. So they've had two wins in Miami over the last 10 years. It's not a great place for this team to go for whatever reason. The Patriots don't fare well down in Florida. So I guess for that reason, I think the Pats are going to be a much better team, and I'm not going to doubt Belichick until he gives us really a reason to with this team. But statistically and historically, they don't fare well in Miami, so I'm going Dolphins.
I think you're going to get them. I don't know what you're going to get out of the Dolphins, like I said, but I think you're going to get a situation this year where they probably win this first game. Then you're going to start getting a lot of people talking about it. And maybe they go on a roll to start out the year. I don't know if it's going to continue, but I think they're going to win this first game at home.
They're gonna go on a 4-0 start and then drop 8 straight games,
like the Cardinals last year,
like the Browns last year. I'll throw my own team under the bus.
True.
Baltimore Ravens and the New York Jets. I think this is a pretty simple pick. I still don't like the Jets, and Zach Wilson's not playing, so Baltimore probably by 20 in this game. I don't think Jets are going to have much offense. I'm excited to see some of the new guys, obviously, and my former Buckeye and Garrett Wilson. I want to see what he does, but I think other than that, I think there's a lot to be desired for this Jets team.
Yeah, not too much on this game. I think the Ravens are going to win it. I don't think Joe Flacco's going to beat his former team. And I also am. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm excited to see this Raven team back healthy with, Lamar contract stuff didn't get figured out, so he's going to put that on hold. But he's going to be there healthy. Their running back room is finally going to be healthy again. So I'm excited to see what they could do this year, but I got them in this first game for sure.
Jacksonville taking on the Commanders, another 1 p.m. game. And this is one of those games. I feel like Jacksonville's preseason is going to be a lot different from their actual season because they looked terrible. We know they have no depth. But now I think it's up to, those starters. What can the starters be for this team? Because we saw the reserves look just awful. But now we're going to see Trevor Lawrence go 4 quarters with Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, and James Robinson. And I think when you go with that, it's a whole different monster than what we saw out of the preseason. Evan Engram back out there. People forget when he was with that Giant squad a couple years ago. He was great until he started getting hit with the injury bug. If they can keep him healthy, that's going to be huge. Josh Allen on the defense is obviously maybe one of the biggest storylines for this team's defense. Trayvon Walker, the number 1 pick in the draft, probably has a slow game here, but I think you're going to be seeing a lot of exciting things. I don't know what to expect out of Washington because they feel like the most bipolar franchise season to season when it comes to how they're going to play and whether or not they're going to win games. You just don't know. I think they have a great wide receiver unit with McLaurin, Dotson, and Curtis Samuel. I love that unit. Big Ten all the way, baby. I'm about it. But their defense, it's still a question mark for them. No Chase Young. He's going to be out here to start the season. They have some good players, but again, we saw those good players collapse last year with this group. So if they can return to where they were a couple of years ago, Commanders should take this one by probably 20 points. If it's the same Washington team we saw last year, just the addition of Carson Wentz, I don't know. I think it's probably close. I don't know what to expect out of Jacksonville, so it's a 2.5-point spread in favor of the Commanders. I think I'm going with the spread again here, but I think it's going to be right there. I think Jags have a very real chance, depending on a lot of circumstances in this game.
And by the way, talking about another team that likes to pick Big Ten guys, especially Ohio State guys, Washington. Yeah. Set 2 receivers, Chase Young, and some other people, I think, along the way. But how about Carson Wentz getting a revenge right away? This is a team Jacksonville couldn't beat last year to get in the playoffs. So how about that week 1 coming out of the gate? Just got to play that team that knocked them out last year. So I think I like Washington too. I'm not really sold on it. I think Jacksonville could actually win it, I think, but I'm going to take the safe pick with Washington at home. Actually, I don't even know if it's safe because they're teaming with Carson Wentz, but I think I like them to kind of bounce back, or at least personally, Carson Wentz. Washington, I think they start out the year with a win.
Well, next game here is maybe one of the biggest storylines of the offseason and now the season. Baker Mayfield in his return against the Browns and what has been termed the Baker Bowl, as Carolina will host the Cleveland Browns. What I've heard so far out of practices is Myles Garrett is going to feast. That's what every single person in the Browns practice has gone. This guy was amazing last year, and he's turned a corner this year, and he's even better. And if that is even remotely true, that's a terrifying instance. If you can say Myles Garrett got better, which I think he needed to, but you think Baker Mayfield is going to like that? His first season back off of injuries, and Myles Garrett is right there. just coming after him. That should be fun to watch. One is watching him chase him around. Quite a few injuries, though, for the Browns, and I think that's going to hurt them in this game. I'm excited. It's the Jacoby Brissett era. So add another name on to that quarterback starting jersey for the Browns. The Baker Mayfield era is over. A new era is upon us. Didn't know this. Browns picked up Kellen Mond, so I don't like that. Vikings cut him. We picked him up. I missed that one, apparently. But the Browns have a good wide receiver core, untested, but I think good. Cooper, Peoples-Jones, and David Bell to go along with David Njoku. And obviously, anytime you have this running back room, that's 7 guys deep, basically, of all guys that can go out there and dominate, as we saw in preseason, you're going to be just fine offensively. I'm interested to see how Stefanski runs the system. Defense obviously had some holes last year, but if anyone knows how to pick Baker apart, it's going to be this defense. I don't think any system should know how to go up against Baker better than Stefanski in this Browns defense. Now, on the side of Carolina, Baker likes the system better. He feels it fits him better. He's got Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard as his running backs in the game, which I think is going to be very helpful. He's going to a system that should kind of repeat some of those successful moments we saw with the Browns. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, a pretty good wide receiver unit, not to mention they also brought in Rashard Higgins, who was with Baker Mayfield last year in Cleveland in the last couple of years. They have an all right defense. I think that's really going to hurt them in this game. I don't know if their offense or if their defense is going to be able to stop the Browns enough to give that offense a shot. I just feel Carolina's defense isn't all that great. Carolina's been given a 1.5 point spread at home, yet the matchup predictor gives them a 60% chance to win it. I'm not buying into that. I got Cleveland taking the Baker Bowl. They were the better team last year, even with an injured Baker Mayfield. The Browns went 8-9. Carolina with Sam Darnold went 5-12. And the fact is, when Baker came in, there was a whole question of, is he really better, that much better than Sam Darnold? Well, if Baker's here and Darnold's here, then they're going to have a 6 or 7 win season compared to 5 last year. It's not going to change that much unless, he is much better than Sam Darnold. So Sam couldn't fix him last year, and a lot of people hyped it up. Carolina's getting the same exact hype they got last year. Now it's just with a different quarterback. Quarterback, I think, is better. I'll still stand Baker Mayfield. I think he's a great quarterback. I wish him some success here in the NFL. I don't wish him a Super Bowl because I'm back.
I was going to say, I heard you talking, but I was going to.
Oh, okay, my headphones got unplugged there. But as I was saying, I don't wish the Super Bowl. That would hurt as a Browns fan, but I wish him best of luck in his future endeavors. But I got the Browns winning this one. No way can I hand it back to my former quarterback to take the first game against us.
I feel like this is another hard game to pick, too, as well, because picking Browns games, like you even know this being a fan, you don't know what you're going to get week to week. And especially coming out of week 1 game against your former quarterback. Would I be surprised if Baker came out and threw like 250 yards? No, I wouldn't be. That'd be the most Browns thing ever if that happened. But and I think he has the ability to do that. I just don't think he has the talent around him to do that stuff yet. I think he can be a guy that's in Carolina at the long term, but obviously they have some work to do around him too. And I think Baker's a guy that needs talent around him. We saw it, the run he went on in Cleveland before he got hurt. I think I'm going to pick the Browns too as well, but I'm not confident. I'm not confident in either team I'm going to pick. I actually have in the back of my head that Carolina's going to win it, but I'm just going to pick the Browns because I still think they're a better team. I do. Even with Jacoby Brissett, I don't think quarterbacks are not better than Carolina with Jacoby Brissett, but I think they're a better team around him with that.
And we'll see what happens with the Deshaun Watson scenario and when he ends up playing and all that. Browns could be a completely different team by the time he comes back. So it'll be interesting. Best of luck to the Browns, man. It's gonna be a wild season. Stay tuned for that because I think it can go. It really the opportunity for the Browns here. It feels like in every last couple of years, the Browns have the talent to be in that AFC Championship game, but they also are the Browns. So you can also potentially expect a 3-win season.
Alec, you're and again. I'm going to repeat this again when we talk my game. You're talking about from a team that isn't really in the same category. You think every year, we got talent, we can make a run and stuff. Right. People are like not taking them seriously because of what they do, and you're not really not going to earn that label until you actually go out and do it.
Exactly.
It's how it is.
I just need the Browns to get to the Super Bowl because my brother owes me $5. It's a long-standing bet. If the Browns ever play in a Super Bowl, he owed everybody in the room there $5. So
you should jack that up a little bit.
Yeah, I got to see what the interest rate on that is. That was like 10 years ago, so I'm sure that's up.
You should have made it $5 every other game. Jack it up.
I don't think you'll buy into that one. But next game, Colts and the Texans. I don't have much for the Texans. They had a good preseason, but they had a bad end to last year, and so did the Colts. But I do really think when you have Jonathan Taylor, now Matt Ryan, you just have more key pieces for the Colts. So I'm going to give them the win here.
Yeah, again, I'm with Matt Ryan later in his career. That I don't know what you're going to get, but I think this Colts team is a sneaky good team this year. They have good defense, some good skill group. Matt Ryan just has to take care of his job, and they can be successful. And I got them in this first game.
Next game, Giants and the Titans are 425 matchup, 5.5 point spread favors the Titans. I'm right there with that. I hate the Giants. I don't think they're a good football program. Danny Dimes isn't good. Like I've said, I don't think Saquon Barkley is that guy in the NFL. I think he's a great running back, but he can't stay healthy, which obviously doesn't really matter at the beginning of the season. He could go off here early on, but he's burned me a few too many times in fantasy for me to forgive him. So I'm going Tennessee in this game. They just have so much. And I think they're a really talented unit. Obviously, I mean, they were the Cincinnati Bengals away from making it near the Super Bowl. So I think this is a huge opportunity for Tennessee to get back. Now, Derrick Henry's had the whole offseason to, recuperate, be healthy. And he's coming out with the vengeance here in week 1. They're going to dominate the Giants.
I like Tennessee too as well. I will not pick the Giants because I don't like them, even though I did pick the Eagles in the other game. But the only thing I do root for the Giants is Saquon because not only because he went to the team I like in college, but I do feel bad because the injuries he's gone through. And I think, like you guys know my stance on Bus is I don't like when people get labeled that when they get injured because it's not really their fault. But he's got to come out and prove it this year. He's talked about it too numerous times throughout the offseason that he expects himself to come out a big year. And I don't know how big of a year too, but I think there's going to be a bounce back for Saquon this year, and I really hope so because he's getting limited by these injuries, and I think he has a talent to be one of the best running backs. So that's the only thing I root for the Giants, but I got the Titans.
Works for me. Packers, Vikings, big rivalry. This one's up in Minnesota, and I've noticed a lot of people are keeping their eyes on this Vikings team this year. A lot of people picking them to win this division, despite the fact Aaron Rodgers is coming off back-to-back MVP seasons, but now his best wide receivers, Sammy Watkins and Allen Lazard, which aren't no scrubs, but Minnesota, man, they do have a really talented group. Jefferson, Thielen, Osborne, Smith Jr. It's so good. And then on the defense, Kendricks, Hunter, Tomlinson. The list goes on for this team. They are so talented. But the problem with Minnesota continues to be Kirk Cousins. He is the big question mark. Luckily for them, it's not a primetime game, so he should do just fine. And I think that leaves the question marks to the side of the Packers. I think this is going to be a tough defensive battle between the two. I think low scoring. Over-under set at 47 in this game. I'd put the over-under at 31. I don't think it's going over 31 points in this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. In a low-scoring affair, I'm not betting against Rodgers. That guy has been known for closing out games. I'm taking A-Rod. I'm taking the Packers. Give me them in this one. I'd say 17-14, right there on that 31 mark.
Yep, give me Aaron Rodgers too. He just doesn't lose these division games. I mean, he pretty much owns the Bears. These Viking games are pretty much in his favor too as well. And I get the hype. Actually, I don't get the hype with Minnesota. It's because on paper this should be good, but
on paper the same team from last year.
Well, again, last year should have been good too, but there were some games that they weren't, and it cost them. And I think this year, same thing. Do people not understand the Kirk Cousins stuff that people keep talking about, but then every year at the start of the year they keep forgetting about it and just think this Viking team's can do something? I don't know.
8-9 last year, 3-6 on the road, but they were all right at home, 5-3. So we'll see what they do. Packers were 5-4 on the road last year. That hurt them.
Yep.
425, Kansas City Chiefs, Arizona Cardinals. I think this is going to be a really good game. I really do. You have two talented offenses, and every time you got Mahomes out there on the field, expect something special. And Kyler Murray, I think we've gotten to the point in his career, I think it's safe to say the same thing. Expect highlights from this game. Maybe don't expect it to be a great game because it probably won't be. If you like offense, it should it has potential to be the game you want it to be, but we don't know what the Chiefs had wide receiver wise. That's the question for them. And Cardinals got off to the great start last year. What are they going to be this year? There are so many question marks really for both of these teams. And at the moment, I think I give the edge to the Cardinals a little bit, but I think that also depends as we get later in the week. What does the injury report really look like? Because at the moment, there's a ton of injuries for this Cardinals squad. And if they don't have guys healthy, you're not going to beat the Chiefs. I don't care if they are, not without their guys. They're coming in fully healthy. And Juju Smith-Schuster, we've seen him have his moments. And I thought McCole Hardman at time has shown moments. And I think, obviously, this Kansas City team felt good enough about this wide receiver unit and good enough about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Travis Kelce to keep pulling it their way and not go out and spend looking for a big-time wide receiver because they know all we need is a route runner. Somebody that gets open with his routes and has enough speed to pull away a little bit so Mahomes can fit it in the window. And I think that's what they have. Chiefs are favored by 6 in this game. I think it could happen a 49-42 type style game if it goes that high. Probably likely both these teams hit in the 30s. Over-under set at 53.5. I think I'd probably take the over on that with these two high-powered offenses and serious question marks for both teams at defense. So that's the way I'm going to this one.
By the way, Trace McSorley's quarterback 2 in Arizona now. So if Kyler Murray gets hurt, it's Trace McSorley time.
Oh, boy.
I do like the Chiefs in this matchup, but I still think they're going to be the team to somewhat be reckoned with this year. I know they don't have Tyreek Hill, and like you said, they don't have solid number 1, clear option number 1 wide receiver, but they got a bunch of talented guys, and you still got Travis Kelce, still got Pat Mahomes. I think they're still going to be good this year, so I got the Chiefs in this first one.
Well, Mike, final game of the Sunday. We got one on Monday Night Football that we'll get to as well, but with 7 minutes on the show left, I'll hand it off to you. Tampa, Dallas, starting the season again. It was epic last year between these two. What was it? 50 pass attempts for a 44-year-old Tom Brady. Now he's a year older. He's going to come out slinging again.
First 45-year-old quarterback ever to start a game.
And they have a 2.5-point spread favored for the road team Tampa in this game.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that's a little bit bigger for Tampa. Maybe a couple points higher because offensive line issues for the Cowboys, got some injury issues. Still don't have Mike Gallup back, so it's pretty much a CeeDee Lamb and some young guys behind him in the receiving core. They got to get healthy, obviously. I think it's a big part. Just bringing in Jason Peters, but I think they pretty much brought him in because he's really old. So I think they pretty much just brought him in for the rookie and Tyler Smith to try to mentor him as he switches positions to try to fill Tyron Smith's void. But I don't know. I really don't know every single year when I go to the NFL what I'm expecting the Cowboys. Last year, they lose the first game and they rip off like 7 in a row. Looked as a contender, didn't do anything. So obviously I'm going to pick them this first game. I think Tampa, they got some issues too on their offensive line. I think both teams have O-line issues. This game's going to be tight, I think, for that reason too. So
I think it will be tight for that, but I think when you compare, like you said, I mean, not having Michael Gallup really hurts your wide receiver core, and that will bring up either Dennis Houston or Noah Brown to fill
James
that
Washington's
spot.
Hurt too.
Yeah, James Washington on the IR. So Noah Brown, I think, is a really great wide receiver. Obviously, former Buckeye.
And he's done some good stuff with Cowboys since he's been.
Yeah,
there.
he has. I think last season he had some good moments with your squad, especially when they were dealing with some wide receiver injuries last year. But I think the focus always with Dallas is that O-line and running the football. When you have Zeke and Pollard, they both understand the game so well. Zeke's not as fast as he used to be, but I think from what I've seen, he's put on a little bit more muscle, which you always see from him in the offseason. And he's coming back looking like a tank. And if we see a fifth of what Zeke was early in his career, I think this could be still a really great year for him, especially as I think it's kind of time Pollard is kind of getting a little bit of a push from this Cowboys organization. Zeke's going to be the starter as long as he provides. And until that moment he can't, then they'll move Pollard in there. But I think they have a wonderful 1-2 duo. Unfortunately, I don't know what your defense is going to hold because Tom Brady's going to pick apart Trayvon Diggs if he's going for what he did last season. So He's going to have to be better. I've seen a lot from their practices as well that he's completely changed up his style of defense. He was working a lot more on face guarding, still got burned. But I think he's going to be much better this season, and he's had that full work. I'm sorry. I can't pick against Tom Brady in this opener. We saw it last year, even in a tight game. And just like I said with Rodgers, it's a guy that closes well. And Dallas, what can I say, Mike? You know it. They're choke artists.
It's not in the regular season. In the playoffs, they are.
In the playoffs, but
still. But nothing you're saying is wrong. And I think with Dallas defense, I do like. I don't know if I touched too much on it when it happened, but I did like them picking up Anthony Barr. I think it's a good extra linebacker for this team that needs it. Obviously, to pair with Michael Parsons too, it's going to be really good. But yeah, their secondary is continuing. I don't want to say it's terrible, but it's about 50-50 mid in the NFL. Because I do like Trayvon Diggs, but his coverages, he does get burned a lot. So, but he does make up for it. He gets back into plays and makes some picks. But, obviously, if they start out slow this year, you're going to hear this Mike McCarthy rumors too. So if they lose this game, which, again, opening week, you can afford to lose it against Tom Brady. But if they start out sluggish, I know it's because of injuries too. And I'm surprised they haven't picked up too many receivers too as well. That's kind of surprising. Yeah. Or offensive linemen. But so they're kind of rolling with what they got. So I think for that reasons, if they start out it's kind of sluggish, it's not all Mike McCarthy for injury reasons, but the way they ended last year, you're going to hear some rumors, I think.
How would you feel about OBJ?
I kind of wanted them to get him, to be honest. I know he's hurt and he'd be missing half the year too. But when he's healthy, that'd be a good addition for his Cowboys team.
And you saw him provide in the playoffs last year.
He did.
With 0 time working with Stafford. He flipped right in there.
And we know the talent he has.
Yep. He showcased it. Clearly wasn't a good fit with the Browns, unfortunately. But, Mike, final game in Monday Night Football, Broncos, Seahawks, Russell Wilson's first game out of Seattle's jersey. Quite the emotional, I think, comeback it should be. 1 for Seahawks fans, 2 for Russ, who obviously, as we've learned more and more, had some turmoil with the front office of this Seahawks group over the last 5 years. So now that he's out, this game only has a 6.5-point favorite towards the Broncos. I'm not high on the Broncos, but Seattle has nothing. So I'm taking Broncos probably 33-7 in this game. I really do think they're going to pull away. We don't see the big scores that you see in college football, but I think it's still going to be a large push in the favor of that Denver squad. I just think they have a lot more than Seattle.
I agree, especially in this first game. And a guy going to a better team, playing against his former team that does not have much, calls for a victory for the former quarterback, which is Russell Wilson. And obviously losing Von Miller last year, they kind of replaced it with my guy, Randy Gregory. I think they're going to win this first game pretty handily, like you said. And I think at home, it's going to be some sad Seahawks fans there because they're going to be missing Russell and they're going to be losing. So
yeah,
I got Denver.
Well, that's going to do it here for the last NFL edition of the Casual Sports Podcast. Tomorrow, we bring it back, local high school football power hour on next on your sports network. And next week, we go local all week. At least half the show every week is going to be focused towards local sports. Spread the news. We're coming to your hometown on your sports network. We'll see you tomorrow.